Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another video and another F1 23 game ideas video. Today we're going to be focusing on the HQ and the paddock. If you missed any of the previous episodes in this series, then I recommend you go and check that out. I'll try and remember to leave an I thing in the top right hand corner, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. See plenty more F1 23 game ideas videos as and when they come out. Now, I'm going to start with what departments should be HQ departments we should have. Now, ideally, there is a future that we want where do we end up with the HQ and the paddock is when we get to walk around. Especially with the paddock, you know, we've seen a little bit of a glimpse of the future with actual fact Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Where you can actually walk around the map in an online lobby as well. Sadly not featured in the story mode there. That would have been such a sick episode to have as well. But real life Singapore Grand Prix, although it's not called that for licensing issues, is there. So yes, but obviously I don't think that Codemasters are actually near creating that scenario, so instead we're going to start with departments. Now, we've seen how many departments there are on F1 Manager, and it might be an idea to start to separate them out into more HQs as opposed to just departments, because you know, like because currently you've got the 6 HQ departments. You've got the aero, the engine, the chassis, and the durability department, as well as the HR and PR and the staff facilities, etc., whatever they're called in the game. I think that these need to be potentially spread out as well. It can still be under a group. That would be quite nice, but obviously things like a wind tunnel, for example, you've got you've got like aero and chassis will be both using the same wind tunnel. They're not going to be using a different wind tunnel, are they, for their car? One thing, again going back to back to last week's R&D episode, where I mentioned about potentially designing an R&D part, is you would have a design centre as well. Obviously it needs something to have a look at engine and durability. I feel like this should be the same team that's looking after the engine that should look after the durability of the car. Yes, you might have different people working on a component, but they should be under the same umbrella. Like the same bloke should be responsible, or person should be responsible for both the durability and also improving the engine of what you can do as well. An analysis centre, that would be good for R&D, because it can then analyse where the car is weakest compared to our rivals. That would be a big step up for the game as well, and that would also then lead to recommending R&D, make it a bit more realistic as opposed to just pressing a button on the R&D screen, and it just selects one that you've got enough resource points for. Rather than doing that, a little bit more thought process behind suggesting an R&D upgrade could come from this particular HQ, the analysis centre. Obviously you've got a HR department as well, which probably needs to be a little bit bigger than what it is as well. A training centre as well, because obviously you've got that's already pretty much part of the sort of driver staff area, really, as well. But obviously this would be for the drivers and have their particular thing. Obviously a simulator is pretty key, but the simulator, you know, needs a little bit more work, I feel, because it's, again, I'm coming back to this later in the video about HQ, about the number of upgrades, but the simulator probably needs to be on its own compared to the rest of the facilities. And obviously having staff areas and having, all of these things need to have a financial cost in my team as well, like having a gym, a cafe, etc., etc. Maybe in having places like a helipad or a tour centre. Those things can bring in money because, McLaren have guests come all the time where they have all their previous cars. Mercedes, funny enough, had their tour of their factory, which was it Red Bull? No, it was Mercedes and Christian Horner, funny enough, as well. But stuff like that, I think that the HQ and the needs to be expanded as well, because we've had the same cutscenes, the same levels, and the same upgrades since F1 2020, and it's just not good enough from an F1 game. It needs to be a lot better. Number 2 is actually another department, a test track. Very crucial, of course, a test is to test your car. Now, there's two things. That one of these has been raised in recent years as well, and something else that I'm going to add. The first bit about a test track is potentially designing your own test track, which would be super cool. Don't think they're going to be there just yet, though. So, in the meantime, at the very least, there should be an acknowledgement that the team is using a test track, and have that cost of renting, like a day at a test track as well. It'd be nice if they could put like Mugello in there, for example, for Ferrari as well, and then then if you are in driver career mode for Ferrari, you get to drive that test track, or at very least get an outing on some of these DLC tracks. That's another cheaper way to get DLC tracks into career mode. It should licensing become a future, but obviously that is another episode as well. But yes, definitely need to have some sort of test track as part of the thing, and obviously testing as well, schedule obviously relating to that. Now, whether or not that's a department that organises it or comes under testing and development as well, it probably depends on what part you're testing as well, or it just comes under a general testing department. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below about that, which departments you would like to see on F1 23. Number 3, more HQ upgrades. I think this is based on the current model, where to be honest, once you can get to level 3 and max out all your HQs pretty easily, you probably do it by the end of season 3. If you're doing the whole 10 seasons, it does get a bit pointless after that. I do like the idea, again, F1 Manager having to refurbish your HQs. That would be something that Codemasters should definitely look at, is having a refurbishing cost to the HQs. But they need to be a few more upgrades as well, a few more levels, as opposed to just having spec 1, 2 and 3 on particular upgrades. Again, a lot of this will links to R&D for the 4 current departments. As I said, probably needs to be a little bit more, but obviously each of the department unlocks, and it should unlock relating to a different part of the R&D tree, like it does now. It needs to have a little bit more specific with those extra departments. It means that for example, if you got like a wind tunnel upgrade, you're gonna be able to upgrade your aero drag reduction or specific stuff like that. I'm getting into, without getting into too much detail there. Now, number 4, hospitality suite as well. I've been trying to figure out where this could be in terms of a weekend, because obviously now you've got the HQ menu to end, but in between maybe practice and qualifying, or qualifying in the race, you return there rather than in the R&D centre, which isn't really an R&D centre. It's just a hub. It's not really a place where you want to be. I would love, as I say, the hospitality suite that was introduced on F1 2017. That's what I think we need to have to return at the very minimum. Obviously we want more areas of the paddock. For example, we used to have that little R&D lorry on F1 2017 as well, and even you had areas like the media pen as well, which I've talked about in an earlier episode. Obviously, you used to have that as part of their maybe a personal space. Like we remember, if you recall, at F1 2010 and F1 2011, you had your own little personal lorry with your HQ, with your agent stuck inside there, as well. Even Breaking Point had areas of the paddock and the HQ that you haven't really seen before, like your own little personal cubbyhole in there. So that is the the very next level. These are things we've already seen in previous F1 games. It's just about bringing them all together now, and then that's the next step, I feel, and then we can move then to everybody's dream, where you're able to walk around the paddock, you're able to walk around the HQ. And the final idea about HQ in the paddock is about customizing your own HQ. And what do I mean by this? Well, F1 Life, you saw you had different wall designs, you had different sofas, and this is a little idea that could relate to an F1 Life video. Sadly, we do have to discuss F1 Life because unfortunately there are rumours that it's expanding for F1 23 as well, which I'll go through those in a separate episode, in a separate video as well. But you've got all these different wall furnishing stuff, furniture, etc., wall types. And I was also looking at stuff like in GTA 5, where you've got like these bases and you can customize the flooring, the lighting, the lot. That is, I think, would be a little bit extra and get people a bit more involved with the stuff that they've created for F1 Life as well. Maybe even choose which were the colours, having more depth to the colour schemes as well. But that's obviously an ongoing thing about customization options, which the priority has to be about a Liberty editor for the car rather than a wall editor for career mode. And that has been it for today's F1 23 Game Ideas video. If you have enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe channel if new, see plenty more F1 23 Game Ideas. As always, if you've got any of your ideas of your own that you want to share, then let me know in the comments below. I'll be doing a full recap as the final episode of all of these ideas as well, for any career mode stuff that I haven't mentioned, because this is the final one of career mode. I think next time we're moving on to multiplayer as well. So yes, until the next video then, I'll see you next time. Take care, as much as watching, enjoy your day, and goodbye.